clarified the issue of who should be the heir between the twins, this certainly did little to spare Rhaena and Baela Targaryen from the fawning attention of all the suitors, confidants, companions, and similar flatterers eager to befriend the king's presumed heirs, though the sisters reacted to these lickspittles in vastly different ways. Where Rhaena delighted in being the centre of court life, Baela bristled at praise, and seemed to take pleasure in mocking and tormenting the suitors, who flustered around her like moths. As young girls, the twins had been inseparable, and almost impossible to tell apart, but once parted, their experiences had shaped them in very different ways. In the Vale, Rhaena had enjoyed a life of comfort and privilege as Lady Jane's ward. Maids had brushed her hair and drawn her baths, while singers composed odes to her beauty, and knights jousted for her favour. More so, she was protected from the worst that the Dance of the Dragons had to offer. The same was true at King's Landing, where dozens of gallant lords competed for her smile. Artists begged leave to draw or paint her, and the city's finest dressmakers sought the honour of making her gowns. And everywhere that Rhaena went came Morning, her young dragon, often as not, coiled about her shoulders like a stole. Baela's time on Dragonstone during the war had obviously been more troubled than her twins' more peaceful life. For her, the war ended with fire and blood. By the time she came to court, she was as wild and willful as a young woman as any in the realm. Rhaena was slender and graceful. Baela was lean and quick. Rhaena loved to dance, while Baela loved to ride and to fly. That had been taken from her when her dragon died. She kept her silver hair cropped as short as a boy's, so it would not whip about her face while she was riding. Time and time again she would escape her ladies to seek adventures in the streets. She took part in drunken horse races along the Street of Silk, engaged in moonlight swims across the Blackwater Rush, whose powerful currents had been known to drown many a strong swimmer. She drank wine with the gold cloaks in their barracks, wagered coin and sometimes clothing in the rat pits of Fleabottom. Once she vanished for 3 days and refused to say where she had been when she had returned. Some began to see the harsher elements of her father, the once prince of the city, in the young girl. Even more gravely, Baela had a taste for unsuitable companions. Like stray dogs, she brought them home with her to the Red Keep, insisting they be given positions in the castle or be made part of her own retinue. These pets of hers included a comely juggler, a blacksmith's apprentice whose muscles she admired, a legless beggar who she took pity on, a conjurer of cheap tricks she took for an actual sorceress, and a hedge knight's homely squire. Once she turned up with an entire troop of mummers. Septa Amaris, who had been given charge of her religious and moral instruction, despaired of her, and even Septon Eustace could not seem to curb her wild ways. The girl must be wed, and soon, he told the king's hand, else I fear that she may bring dishonour upon House Targaryen, and shame to his grace her brother. Sir Tylan saw sense in the Septon's counsel, but there were perils as well. Baela did not lack for suitors. She was young, beautiful, healthy, wealthy, and of the highest birth. Any lord in the Seven Kingdoms would be glad to take her for his wife. Yet the wrong choice could have grave consequences, for her husband would stand very close to the throne. An unscrupulous, venal, or overly ambitious husband might cause no end of war and woe. A score of possible candidates for Baela's hand were considered by the regents. Lord Tully, Lord Blackwood, Lord Hightower, who was yet unwed, though he had taken his father's widow as a paramour. They were all put forth, as were a number of less likely choices, including Dalton Greyjoy, the Red Kraken, who boasted of having 100 salt wives, but had never taken a rock wife, a younger brother of the Prince of Dawn, and even the rogue Roncalio Raidoon. All of them were ultimately discarded for one reason or another. Finally, the hand of the Council of Regents decided to grant Lady Baela's hand in marriage to Thaddeus Rowan, Lord of Goldengrove. Rowan was no doubt a prudent choice. His second wife had died the year previous, and he was well known to be seeking a suitable young maid to take her place. His virility was beyond question. He fathered 2 sons on his first wife, and 5 more on his second. As he had no daughters, Baela would be the unquestioned mistress of his castle. His youngest 4 sons were still at home, and in need of a woman's hand. The fact that all of Lord Rowan's offspring were male counted heavily in his favour. If he were to sire a son on Lady Baela, Aegon III would have a clear successor. Lord Thaddeus was a bluff, hearty, cheerful man, well liked and well respected. A doting husband and a good father to his sons. He had fought for Queen Rhaenyra during the dance, and had done ably, and with valour. He was proud without being arrogant, just in judgment and not vindictive. Loyal to his friends, dutiful in religious matters, untroubled by overweening ambition. Should the throne pass to Baela, Lord Rowan would make the perfect consort, supporting her with all his strength and wisdom, without seeking to dominate her or usurp her rightful place as ruler. Certain Eustace tells us the regents were very pleased with the result of their deliberations. Baela Targaryen, when informed of the match, did not share their pleasure. Lord Rowan is 40 years my senior, bold as a stone with a belly that weighs more than I do, she purportedly told the king's hand. Then she added, I've wedded 2 of his sons, the eldest and third born, I think it was. Not both at once, that would have been improper. Whether there is any truth to this, we cannot say. Lady Baela was known to be deliberately provocative at times. If that was her purpose here, she was successful. The hand sent her back to her rooms, posting guards at her door to make certain she remained there until the regents could convene. Yet a day later, he discovered to his dismay, Baela had fled the castle by some secret means. Later it was found out she climbed out of a window, swapped clothes with a washwoman, and walked out the front gate. But by the time the hue and cry went up, she was halfway across Blackwater Bay, having hired a fisherman to carry her to Driftmark. There she sought out her cousin, the Lord of the Tides. 2 weeks later, Alan Velaryon and Baela Targaryen were married in the Sept at Dragonstone, the bride 16, the groom nearly 17.